Okay, we are live. So we started this stream with just a picture of a guy that was playing with us, and unfortunately, we lost him a couple months ago. So we wanted to really dedicate our next session to him. He was a great guy. He was in the game. Life happened, and he got a new job, and he had to step out of the game. But unfortunately, he recently died, and so we thought it would just be really cool to dedicate this session to him. So, man, I hope you're rolling some dice up there in heaven. And with that, without any further ado, I think we'll get started. So this is session 11 of the Sword of the Dales. And when you, okay, Carol, I thought we lost you for a second there. When we last played, which it was a while ago, I think it's been a good 6-7 weeks since we played. Our schedules have all been fairly hectic, and we haven't been able to make it gel. But we're back. And so when we had left off, you guys had returned to Shadowdale after recovering the Sword of the Dales. Unfortunately, you were not able to find Randal Morn. Sui, however, as she grasped the sword whispered to her that Randal Morn could be found in the Spiderhaunt Woods, which is a large, heavily overgrown patch of forest to the west of Shadowdale. So after retrieving the sword and making your way back to Shadowdale, unfortunately losing the young boy, Thomas, I believe was his name, due to what you believe were injuries he sustained in a fight you guys had with the Zhenterim. So it was kind of a bittersweet return to Shadowdale. But again, you had the sword. And while you were there, you were able to gather more information about the Spiderhaunt. And after a short kind of respite within Shadowdale, I believe it was a couple of days, you guys re-equipped yourselves with the aid of Liero, who is the scribe of Elminster, and are now, and when we last left you guys, you were heading towards the Spiderhaunt out of Shadowdale. So we're going to pick up today's session. You're 2 days out, just about to reach Shadowdale. Or actually, it's probably the second day. And I'm wondering what you guys are about as the camera kind of pans in on you guys. And you guys are absent your famous ox cart, I guess. So I don't know how I'm going to kill you if I don't have an ox cart, so I'll figure something out. So any one of you guys, free narrative time, you can just let me know what's going through your mind, what you're doing, and as you kind of see this forest starting to loom up ahead of you.
Well, I think we learned from our mistakes with the ox cart. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. So we'll proceed without. I think we discussed that we were going to be mounted on horse this time. And I think, so Sly probably has a small pony that he's been riding. But at this point, he's probably got it tethered to Loralynn's horse. And he's sitting on the back of her horse, kind of leaned up against her. And he's, one leg hanging off the horse. And he's got his flute out. And he's just kind of, humming a couple tunes. He'll play every now and then, but he's pretty lost in thought of, as they're kind of just starting this new episode. He's been through a lot recently, and he's not all there right now. But he would just be trying to relax, take everything off of his mind, and just go forward.
Loralynn's riding her horse along. She's got a new horse. She hasn't named it yet. It's a nice big brown, fast-looking horse. She thinks it'll be great. She's enjoying having Sly riding along behind her. I figure he's facing backwards on the horse actually, and leaned up against her, one foot on its rump and one hanging off. And she's enjoying the music, but she's also trying to stay very alert to what's going on around her, because this isn't probably the safest place in the country. Come across some pretty unsafe places, so she's alert and riding along, and and see what he's up to. She, that is.
The camera pans away. It's moving frantically through the grass, and you see a hare running through the grass. The hare's fur is white, a pure white, unblemished by dirt. Its eyes are red. It is albino. It is moving quickly. The camera moves back a little bit, and the hare leaves the screen, and you see something dark and black snake through the grass. The camera moves back to the hare, and it's leaping faster, faster. It's starting to squeal, as hares tend to do when they're being hunted, and it finds its hole, and it jumps in. For a long moment, the camera focuses on that hole, and then you see the rattletail move slowly inside of it, and you hear the squealing inside, and then you hear nothing else until a horse hoof comes landing directly beside the rabbit hole, and the camera slowly rises, and you see Sui leading this train of adventurers towards the Spiderhaunt from a back of a horse.
Perfect. Lovely. If you would please all give yourself some inspiration for the start of this session. I have a feeling you're going to need it. So, excellent. So, if I remember correctly, Sui, you actually are carrying the Sword of the Dales, and you're still carrying it as you guys head off to find Randal. Where does Sui carry this sword?
Since we're on horseback right now, it's completely wrapped up and it's hanging off the side of the saddle.
Perfect. Excellent. It'll be very important, I think, Marquise, at any time during at least this session and maybe the subsequent sessions, that you let me know where, if you move the sword, where its new location is. Okay.
Gotcha.
Awesome. And so yeah, and does Sui? Actually, let's not ask the question of whether or not Sui knew anything about what just happened to that poor rabbit in the hole. Let's just move on. So you guys move through the rest of the afternoon, and I will. So something I'm going to be doing a little different is because this campaign is set off an old first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So one of the things I'm going to do, and I kind of moved away from this in the first module. So as we're moving into the second module, I'm going to take times where I'm going to actually read the text blocks as written, just to give it that kind of that old school feel. And let's just try it for this session, maybe another session, and we'll decide as a group whether or not we're going to keep doing that, or whether we'll just go with free form kind of exposition when it comes to description. So you ride through the rest of the day. This second day, the clouds were dark and heavy. There was rain falling. It's been miserable, though uneventful. But it seems that Sly has done his best to keep your spirits up. The sky is starting to darken, not because of the clouds, but because the sun is starting to set off in the distance, out beyond the treescape of the Spiderhaunt. As you guys come up to the edge of this forest. Now, you've probably spent the better part of an hour looking for this trail that Liero has told you will lead you through this forest, and as legend has it anyways, leads to this sorceress, this witch, this powerful being, this fae that is said to inhabit and yes. Said to inhabit this forest. So why doesn't everybody give me a perception roll? So, Loralynn, you're the first to notice the break in the woods. Most untrained eyes probably wouldn't even see this, but your upbringing and your training has allowed you to see this overgrown path. And to call it a road would be would be anything but accurate. If it was a road, it doesn't look like a road anymore. As you approach it, Loralynn, you see that it's so overgrown that you guys would be that riding upon your mounts, with probably the exception of Sly, it would be near impossible because of the branches and whatnot that are just grown and intertwined up over themselves. But as you peer in with your elven eyes, Loralynn, you can see winding through the forest still is the remnants of what was once this great road.
All right. Well, then I'll call ahead to Sui. Sui, look over here.
I think Carol froze, but Sui's head, Lionel, would turn as if on a swivel and just look directly where she's being pointed to.
Yeah, so you would see the same thing, Sui. Your eyes are almost as sharp, or as sharp as Loralynn's. Your eyes can pierce into this darkness, and you see things. To most people, I think it would be unsettling, but to you, Sui, there's no emotion attached to it at all. You see things kind of slithering across some of the branches. You see a dark form dart across the path. All the while, Sly is riding up on his pony, just absently plucking away at the strings. Would you say you were leaning back on the saddle so your head was like at the pony's head, Sly?
Yeah, probably. After traveling with Loralynn for a little while, he hops down and he's riding his pony. And when he sees the change of direction here, he sits up and stands on the saddle of his pony, and he looks over to kind of like peer over this shrubbery that's in the way, and he sees this dark, depressing trail, and just fantastic. It's about par for the course at this point.
Loralynn, your horse kind of sidesteps a bit. Its ears kind of fold back, and it kind of pulls on the reins a bit as Honey meanders up next to you. You hear her sniffing at the air in front of this pathway, and she looks up at you and she goes,
Easy there, girls, Loralynn says to her horse. What is it, honey? Does Loralynn's magic sword give any indication?
Excuse
there's
me,
any
you broke
danger?
up a little bit there. What did you say, Carol?
Does Loralynn's magic sword give any indication of danger?
Yeah. Ping, ping. Yeah, you feel that sensation. As I was thinking about your sword, you know what it is? Oh, we just lost her again.
I know, it's just bouncing every so
Weird.
often. I have no idea what's going on.
So, you know how, like, when you get close to something that's got like electricity in it, that's kind of the sword. You feel like the hairs on her arms start to raise. It starts slowly on the side where she keeps the sword, and then you've noticed that as you get closer to danger, it starts like it has that static effect across your body.
Yeah, I've actually got the sword on my back because I'm not using it, I'm just carrying it.
So the rest of you would kind of see Loralynn's hair in the back kind of rise up a little bit, where her sword is. So you would feel it across your back,
okay,
Loralynn, as you peer in there. And Honey is just kind of like hopping from one foot to another, which is something she's done when she's nervous, as she's looking down this trail.
All right, everybody, get ready. There's something going on here. Loralynn draws her bow out, gets it strung and ready to shoot.
Go ahead.
When is there something not going on?
Well, there's something immediate. The sword's giving warning. It's time to prepare.
Oh, fantastic. Sly slides his loot onto his back and kind of handles his short sword at his side.
Ominously, Swiftstyle doesn't move at all. She sits on horseback, holds the reins, and watches.
So just as you're doing that, you hear this piercing scream from somewhere deep into the forest. Its location you can't really pinpoint in this fading light. You just hear this, and then it fades. Off in another direction, you hear this crashing, like large branches being snapped.
And you say the branches are too low for us to bring a horse through easily?
If you bring your horses, you would have to kind of like guide them.
Gotcha.
Like the only one that could is Sly. Sly could ride his pony and not have to dismount.
You see like this unfurling of like colorful feathers from behind Swiftstottle's ear. And then kind of blossoming out of it like a tree trunk growing up is the scaled body of her serpentine familiar, the coatl. And it blossoms from behind her ear and then detaches and goes in a helix above her. And then it's going to move into the forest towards the crashing, not the scream. And she blinks once, but it's not with her normal eyelids. It's with her second eyelids. And as they open up, you see that they're completely jade green. And she's now looking through her familiar's eyes as it moves into the woods.
Perfect. What are the rest of you doing as Swiftstyle is doing that, if anything?
All right. Well, I would Sly would be would kind of he would probably be on the far side of this trail, behind Loralynn and Honey, and again he's now he's kind of like crouching on the saddle a little bit, like half sitting, but ready to kind of get up if he has to, and he's again just readied on that short sword, waiting for something to happen.
Perfect.
Oddly quietly.
So, how well does Sly see in the dark?
Not that well.
Yeah. So for you, you can barely make out the forms of your companions. Off in the distance, close by, you can see the hulking form of Honey as she's near where you see Loralynn. You see Honey kind of just waving back and forth as she kind of is sniffing the air. You see this snake thing appear at Swiftstottle's beckoning and disappear into the woods. And Loralynn, what are you doing?
Well, Loralynn, of course, had gotten off her horse. She's looking at Honey. Honey, she kind of whispers to her, "Where's the closest?" And looks to see if Honey can point her in any direction. I don't know if Honey actually figures that out or not.
What are you trying to ask her to do?
Where the closest thing is that's got her going.
Yeah. She just goes, like, and she can't really, she's confused by the question, but probably not so much what you're asking her.
I'm back.
Yeah, I don't think you actually really ever drop out, even though it says you do.
Well, I lose Chrome completely, and I have to rejoin.
Oh, okay.
On for a few seconds.
So you get a sense, Carol, if you want to give me your nature roll or survival roll.
$12.
Yeah. You get a sense that it's because there's danger everywhere. Honey doesn't really know how to identify any one danger. She wouldn't classify danger the same way as the rest of you might.
Right. Well, then could I, the horse. But what I'd like to do is to stealth off into the woods and just kind of scout around a little bit.
Yeah, certainly can do that. So we'll go back to you, Sweet. So you send this this familiar, this companion of yours into the woods. and it can its eyes can pierce this darkness. And as it does so, what you see is as you're looking through its eyes, different shades of gray. Because even with its ability to see in darkness, the darkness of this wood is it's almost oppressive. It reminds you of what it was like when you were in the tomb, if there weren't a light source there. Little sun remains is barely able to pierce this canopy of trees. But what you see as it kind of, I don't know if it's a he or a she, as it kind of wends its way through these branches, you catch out of the corner of your eye movement, maybe a squirrel or some other small animal, a bird taking flight from a branch. And then you see this large, lumbering form just kind of moving. And you see, or what your snake sees, your coatl, am I saying that right?
Coatl.
What the coatl sees is a head slowly turns around and looks at it. It's this big, ugly, humanoid face. But what stands out is there's another head rested right next to it. And that one head looks at your familiar, and then it turns around and it says something. Just kind of grumbles to this other head, which it then stops walking, and then both heads turn and look. And you see an arm, large, hairy, filthy arm, point up at it. And it turns and takes a couple of steps towards it.
Sui is going to have her familiar. What it's going to do, because it can fly, it's going to continuously try and fly out of their reach and kind of dance among the branches, like tease it into following it. And she wants to bring it out of the forest if it'll follow.
All right, good. So why don't you give me a dex roll for your familiar, and it'll be opposed against this thing's ability to catch it.
It's under a 10, so.
Yep, I rolled a 1. So
well, there you go.
It bobs and weaves, and it starts leading it. Is there a specific place you want it to lead?
I want it to come just straight out of the forest in front of us.
Okay, cool. So let's do another one. Let's do another dex.
It's my turn for the one.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's bobbing and weaving, and then you see it. It turns its head to look, and the last thing you see, Aristotle, is this large, filthy palm, and then blackness, and then it ends.
Sui blinks her eyes, and then she says calmly, as if nothing happened, "There's something in there, perhaps an ogre or a troll, 2 heads. It's coming this way, and it caught my familiar and then killed it."
Almost to punctuate that. Oh, sorry. But almost to punctuate that, Sui, you hear this as another branch from a tree is snapped.
Definitely on hearing that, Loralynn would like to hide in the edge of the trees, prepared to shoot her bow at anything that comes out that looks dangerous.
Okay, well, fantastic. So what do you suppose we do about that?
We lure it out here into the open, and we kill it.
Right, so when you say giant, do you mean like Matthias size? Because for me, like giant means something completely different.
Perhaps 10, 12 feet tall.
Yeah, at your best guess, you would probably say at least that, maybe even as high as 14.
And Sly just shudders. Fantastic. All right. Where should we put the horses? And he's just like shaking in his boots now, just like trying to keep his cool, but he's like just about to piss himself.
It'll be safer for you to stay on horseback. The horses are faster than us, and so faster than this. We ride around it and we kill it from a distance.
Okay, great. I can't see very well. Would it be disadvantageous big words, to shed some light on the situation here. And Sly kind of like reaches back at his lute, waits for a reply.
Sui thinks for a moment, and then she realizes this thing's probably stupid and will come towards the shiny light. So she nods her head for you to do so.
So he's like, okay. As she like waited, he's like, I don't know if she's tricking me or not, but he like pulls out his lute, and he's like, stops. Are you? All right, I can't see anything. And he just plucks 4 simple chords, just doom, 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 doom. And as he plucks them, these little orbs of light kind of come out from the strings and kind of make their way around, and they're all slightly different colored, but you can kind of hear them like humming a little bit the same note that was plucked when they came out. And they spread out along the path, and they kind of spin very slowly.
Perfect.
So that was Dancing Lights, which is so that would just be like just outside of us, so that we can see everything that's happening in us and just a little bit further.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So Honey retreats a little bit. As she sees you get down, and she kind of moves over closer to where Sly is, and she kind of just looks at you, Sly, and just goes, ooh. And then she turns back to the woods. So you guys wait. You hear a couple more, the sounds of a couple more branches being snapped, something moving through the woods. And then it kind of sounds like it veers off, like it's no longer heading your way. And then as time passes, the next sound you hear is further off until you don't hear it at all. So you probably, after about 20, 25 minutes of waiting, this thing never appears out of the edge of the woods.
So I would imagine then that as she hears it starts to veer off, that Loralynn gets back on her horse, decides that it's not going to be an immediate fight.
But in that time, sorry to cut you off, Carol, the sun has fully set now. Darkness is fully upon the land. And as even with your eyes, your keen sight, Loralynn, as you peer down into this this path that winds its way into this wood, all you can see, much like Sui could see, is these shades of gray. And you can hear like a chittering. What do you guys want to do?
So just while we're doing that too, Sly would kind of keep that those lights going, and they're just kind of slowly orbiting around us. Every now and then, one of them starts to dim, and he plucks another note, and another one will take its place. But just to kind of keep that that vision on the area.
Sui steps out of the stirrups and off of her horse. She takes a feather from her ear. She goes to the ground and she buries the feather into the dirt. And then she goes to lean over it. And before she begins doing what she does next, she says to you, Sui, make sure for the next 10 minutes that you stay safe. And then she begins to do this very low singing over where the feather is. A very low, very soft singing, fae-like in nature, something that I'm sure Sly would have never expected her to be able to produce, of all people. What she's doing, Lionel, is she's using her Pact of the Chain to cast Find Familiar as a ritual for 10 minutes to bring my familiar back.
Yep. Yeah, and after the 10-minute ritual, your familiar would be back.
And again, it's just like you just see like a flower bulb made of these colorful feathers. They open up and the coatl comes back out. She will then take the wrapped up sword of the Dales. She's going to sling it over her shoulder, taking it off of the saddle. And she's going to begin walking towards the path, guiding her horse as she does so.
All right, perfect. What are the other two doing?
Well, as we starts to go walking her horse down the path, Loralynn's ready to follow. Sly, do you want the middle or the back?
I think I'll take the middle. That sounds fine.
You should be in front of your light, Sly.
I can move them. It's okay. Like I got it. It's fine. I'll just hang out right here in between. I don't mind.
She accepts that.
And he kind of like starts following up behind you, very like loosely guiding his pony. The pony just kind of like follows the other horses more than it follows what Sly's direction is. And every now and then he's like looking around real nervously. Okay, all right, and then okay, oh, Jesus.
Loralynn's taking up the rear, and she's keeping an eye out to all around with Honey kind of. Well, Honey's pretty much with her, but she sometimes bounces out into the woods a little bit. Mostly she's scouting kind of around the party.
Yeah, everybody give me an animal handling check as you guys start to enter the wood. Perfect. So there's some hesitation with your mounts as you first start to walk into the wood, but with some coaxing, and I'm not quite sure how Sly does it, but not Sly, but Sui does it. But she convinces her horse to come in. But we'll leave it to our imaginations as you guys start to wend your way into the darkness of this forest. So as you're walking along this path, just a few yards in, trees press in on you from all sides, eerie pinpoints of what you think might be starlight start out from the darkness of the canopy. Or is it starlight, or is it eyes? Your minds start to race, well, with the exception of Sui, who probably doesn't give it much of a thought. The branches overhead seem to feel like they're pressing in on you. You hear noises all about you. Again, that chittering. It sounds like multiple legs skittering across wood. And when the noise kind of rises, the horse's ears are twitching. Their tails tuck in or tuck down. And you can feel the tension from your horse, Loralynn, as you continue to walk. You can hear Honey walking beside you. She just kind of got this low growl going. Not a growl of anger, but one of nervous fear. How long do you guys want to press into this wood?
Sui won't stop. She's going to keep going regardless, unless they both decide that they have to stop.
Perfect.
Loralynn was going to want to go for a while anyway, but it is night, right?
It is night. It's early night. It would be dusk if not for the overcast clouds, which are breaking up, which you would guess are breaking up a little bit, because there does seem to be some silver light every once in a while, kind of breaks through the canopy, which is a good and a bad thing, because every once in a while you see some black shape cut across some of the moonlight.
Okay. Sorry. Loralynn would be looking for a defensible place perhaps to camp. If something should come up, a fallen tree with a big root ball that they could have a wall out of or something like that, because they can't go on forever.
All right, give me a survival roll. So you guys start walking into this wood. You're not certain if you just seem to be a bigger predator or whether it's just dumb luck. But the first hour goes by, the second hour goes by, and into the third hour of your trip along this path. And I'm assuming, Sly, every once in a while you're strumming your loot, and another of these balls appears. Maybe it's these glowing orbs that Sly has summoned that has kept some of these creatures from this wood at bay. But into the third hour, Loralynn, you finally see a spot that would be suitable for camping. It's higher. If it should rain, the rainwater would wash away from where you camp, so you don't have a fear of being waking in a small monsoon.
I take it has something that we can use for defense as well.
Well, I would think probably the only defense that the four of you have are yourselves.
Oh, you would think, Sir DM. Finding this defensible spot, I imagine Sweet points it out. Actually, this might not work because you might just say there's something like that in here. But
hey, I rolled a nat 20, man.
Sweet is going to start looking around. Don't talk about what I'm about to say. She starts looking around, and her tongue flicks out between her lips, but it's thinner than normal, and it's forked. And she's speaking the language of snakes, my good man Lionel. And she's trying to assemble her serpentine friends to this spot.
Yeah,
those will be her bodyguards for the evening.
Yeah. So, is that an automatic thing, or is that something you have to do?
I'm using the animal handling spell because I'm a Monty. So let me double check that real quick.
Perfect. What defenses would you do, Loralynn?
Oh, well, of course, have honey set up for defense, but largely I'm going to keep watch. I'm imagining there's a couple of pretty good sized trees in this forest that we could use, at least for partial cover. And hoping Sly wouldn't need a very big spot to hide, and I'll only need 4 hours of meditation. So I figure that Sui and I can certainly do watch even if it's fairly dark. And
yeah. The challenge of this wood, Loralynn, is that everything's cover. What gives you cover would give anything that was either spying upon your camp or meant ill for your party would more likely than not take the advantage of that same cover. I mean, this wood is very heavily overgrown.
Well, if I have my back to a tree trunk, at least my back is safe.
Right. Yeah, you can definitely do that. This is a forest that man has not walked in for quite some time, has not forested like some other woods. So you summon these snakes. What?
And one more thing I want to do is I want to actually tell Honey to guard Sly because he can't see very well. So if something goes down, he might need that extra help.
Yeah, she just bobs her head up and down. Yeah, so you are easily able, Sui, to draw in a good dozen snakes from the nearby forest. One of the things you sense from them isn't much like you, isn't like fear or any kind of emotion like that. It's like a guardedness. Like predator is like the emotion you get. I don't know what that would feel like to Sui, but being a predator herself, she probably would know what that means. But that's what these snakes say, predators.
It feels like, given that she's fairly humanoid as a pureblood, it's like you walked into a wall made of static electricity, right? The hairs on the back of your neck rise. Your bodily functions begin to fluctuate more and more. You know you're being watched. You know you're about to be killed by something if you're not careful. She processes this feeling. And when she goes to bed down, she won't be watching, taking a round on watch, just because her snakes will basically wake her up if something actually comes in or something mysterious or spooky happens. So,
perfect. Now, as you guys kind of make this camp, you make your preparations, meals are had. Anything else that you guys would like to do, please feel free to do so. If not, the night is going to start. I need everyone to give me a D20 roll, just a straight up D20 roll. Don't add anything to it.
As they start to make camp, Sly would try and find as close to a corner of something as he can, kind of butt up against something, and he will kind of start like digging at the earth and kind of excavate this little hole, and he's gonna kind of like plop down in it with his back, up butted up against it, and just put all his weapons at the ready, so he's ready for something to come at him. He's got a good defense.
Sorry, I was muted. So the fire you guys have made kind of starts to burn down as you guys all drift off to sleep. I'm not sure who is the first watch, or whether you're going to rely on the nature of your snakes as an alarm source. But anyways, as you're sleeping, Sly, you hear and feel the wind whip a silvery white vapor around your body. You see black feathers covering your arms, and you realize you are flying far above the earth. Then you drop through the clouds and dive into the forest below. The trees seem close and oppressive, and a narrow trail winds its way below. Hanging web-filled branches, numerous points of crimson light stare from behind the leaves of the trees. In the distance, the trail widens into a large clearing that contains the ruins of a large stone tower. Before your winged form takes you any closer to it, you hear the voice crying out into the night, "Help me!" The ghostly voice wails from somewhere within the woods. "Lest your own soul be lost among the pathways of the unworthy." And then, just as quickly as this dream comes upon you, you awaken, and you're in the quiet camp in the Spiderhaunt Wood, but you're left feeling unsettled. Give me a D100 roll. Yeah. Something about this dream, Sly, has gotten to you. It's unsettled you in some fashion. Share for us what it is. What about this dream has gotten you so worried, so anxious, that sleep is now, you're not able to fall back asleep. You try, you roll in your hole. You keep thinking of that dream.
So Sly's mind, when he sees the dream, he sees it almost in third person from just behind himself, and he sees himself falling towards the forest, and he's kind of, his arms spread out, just free falling, and as he lands, he starts running through the wood, but he's running on all fours like some sort of rabid animal, and he's running frantically like he's running from some sort of predator, and he feels himself becoming distant, like he's getting away from himself, and he's faster and faster and faster, and he runs to this temple that you described, and he stops and he looks up, still on all fours, and he's kind of like sniffing along the ground, and he hears this voice, and at the same time the embodiment of himself in front of him snaps its neck to its direction, and then he hears it from the other side, and it snaps its neck back, and it looks like something completely different. He doesn't feel like himself. He doesn't feel like this is natural in any way. And right as the end of that whispering voice, he hears it right behind him, and he sees the embodiment in front of him turn, and he sees its eyes glowing this yellowish copper color, and he's startled awake. And as he wakes up in a panic, from his hole, he starts up and immediately pulls out his sword, and he wakes up just completely unsettled. And he stands up and he pull his sword out, and he looks around, and he looks down at his hands, and he looks over at Loralynn, who's keeping watch somewhere, and he looks at Honey, and he sees Sui, and he looks around himself, and the place that they are feels familiar, like that dream, and he tries to calm himself. After a little while, he calms himself down enough to try and lay down. But every time he lays down and he closes his eyes, every time he closes his eyes for more than a second, he sees those evil, demonic-looking eyes staring at him, and it terrifies him. And he can't keep his eyes closed. He can't keep them shut. He gets up every 5 to 10 minutes or so and stretches, walks around a little bit, kind of holding his head. After a while, he gives up, and he offers to take watch from Loralynn, just completely disturbed.
Perfect. Yeah, Loralynn was sitting there, legs crossed, bow resting across her legs. And Sui, you were probably the first to see that Loralynn being in her elven trance, and you sitting with your familiar. You see, before he even wakes up, you see Sly kind of on all fours, kind of digging at his hole and kind of acting out this nightmare that he seems to be having before he starts awake. What, if any, reaction does Sui have to this?
Sui watches him coldly, not moving an inch, not stirring whatsoever, her eyes focused on him. She watches him get up, go back down, get up, go back down, close his eyes, turn over, get back up, drink some water, take a piss, lay back down, get back up. She watches the whole thing. She thinks about asking what happened to him, and then she does so, but she's still lying there completely still. So it's as if she's still sleeping, and you just hear like her voice out of nowhere, "What is wrong?"
And it's as he's kind of just getting up from his little cubby that he made again. He's getting up, and he sits kind of on this slope, and he's got his knees up and his arms resting on his knees, and he puts his face into his hands, and he's just he just pulls at his hair and tries to like get it out of his face, and just what? Oh, nothing, just a bad dream.
You're like, "Oh, I thought you were lying. When said, I think you're just telling me half of a truth."
Sui, as you say that, you hear in your mind, "He lies. He's been touched by darkness. All who enter the Spiderwood get touched by darkness. Watch him. Watch him. Shield yourself against the darkness."
Sui listens to the sword, but having heard last session that the sword has some kind of evil, spooky, not holy, very ungood juju about it, she takes it all with a grain of salt. She's like, "Oh, okay, that's nice. Okay, keep telling me more." And she's looking at Sly still. Her facial expression has not changed whatsoever. But she does say this. She says to you, Sly, well, she asks you, "What did you dream about?"
Just I don't even know. This place just makes me uneasy. It's just
Sly, listen. The easiest way to calm down after a night of terror is to talk about it.
I couldn't explain it. it all felt so real. I don't even it this
As you do that, I'm sorry, I mean to interrupt you because you are interrupted. You feel this wet, cold nose and tongue just lick up the side of your face, Sly, and you see the hulking form of Honey standing beside you, and she goes, she kind of just blows her snout out at you, so you feel some snot hit your face, and she licks you again, and then you can finish your story.
I imagine Honey's also got like 3 or 4 snakes just coiled up on his back, chilling, like just looking around.
She doesn't even seem to care about the snakes. At first she did. She was kind of like one of those, but then she's like,
yes, oh God, and he like gets up and he's just like, fantastic. I love it here. You just, I'll be all right. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. And he just kind of like zones out, looking at the ground where their fire was, the bit of ash, and you could see his face like he was there, and then he's just the face of somebody who just completely went to a different place, and he's just it's not focused anymore. His hair kind of like stuck up from where Honey licked him a little bit.
Sui says, Loralynn, make sure the fire stays lit, and then she closes her eyes.
Loralynn gets up and puts another log on the coals. She's like, Sly, what's going on?
And as she tosses another log down, the embers kind of flare up, and his eyes follow, and then he catches Loralynn, and all of a sudden he just, you can see his like his himself come back, and he's, I just can't I can't sleep with all this here going around. This place is creepy. It's not not great.
Why don't you get up and have a cup of tea or something? If you can't sleep, you might as well be awake. Get your wits about you.
Yeah. That sounds good. And he'll go over, like slowly meandering through his bag or something, and pull out like a little can and pour some water in there, and then just go over towards the fire and start to heat it up, just like very slowly, not thinking straight. He's just like he's sleepwalking almost, and he kind of stumbles a little bit on his way over to the fire, and he just kind of sits in front of it and just watches as the water starts to heat up and boil a little bit, and he lets it boil for a little while, forgets about it, and then he kind of and puts the tea leaves in there, into it, and kind of stirs it up a little bit, puts it back on the fire, lets it heat up a little bit more, and then he takes it, and he's just sitting there kind of like zoned out into this tea now, and the smoke kind of wafting up and hitting him in the face, and he seems like he's dreaming again almost, but he's
Sly,
kind of
drink it.
in and out.
Wake up and drink it, Sly. You're not sleeping.
And I think that's where we will change scene. It'll kind of, the camera will go dark, and when it opens up again, these weak rays of sunlight are coming down through the sparse breaks in the canopy above you into your campsite. It's the early hours. It's probably later than you would expect, but because of the fact that the sun has to be higher up, risen longer, it's a little bit later start of your day. But as you look around, the forest doesn't quite look cool. So you can decide what's going to happen with them, Sui. So as you look around, the forest doesn't quite look as daunting as it did the night before. You look around, it looks like any other forest you've been in, Loralynn, with the exception of maybe it's grown in a little bit. It's gone a little bit more wild. You doubt that if there were elves there and other fae that could sing to the trees, that there would be more order to the chaos of nature. But this forest has been allowed to kind of take its own path, kind of sing its own tune and grow as it sees fit. But you can see the path laid out before you. You eat a quick breakfast. I don't know if there's anything else that you guys would say or do to each other. Honey seems to be much happier and in better spirits now that she can see some sun. She even just kind of looks up a little bit at a beam of sunlight that's coming down. And she kind of grunts at you and steps out onto the path, almost like to say, "Let's go, Mom."
Yes, I would imagine once we've gone through our morning chores and had our breakfast, tacked up our horses, Loralynn would be ready to go. She wants to get this over with. It's not the coolest forest. Even though she's quite at home in forest, this one's a little strange.
Yeah, perfect. So you guys start making your way again along this trail. It's not quite so bad. You actually find that you can make much better time with just even this dimmer light coming in, especially with yours and Sui's sharper eyes. You're able to help guide Sly, who it's still a little difficult for you, Sly. Your eyes not being accustomed to really darkened forests or caverns, but you make do, and you travel through half of the morning, and you break for a quick little respite. And oh, Sly, I almost forgot. Give me a con save, please. When you woke up, I got so lost in my description that I forgot about the con save.
That's that good old 3, son.
Yeah, you are beat. You look at Sly, guys, and he has big old blue bags under his eyes, and he just is really lethargic. You are suffering from one level of exhaustion, Sly, mechanically. So Sly, I guess when midday hits, you welcome that, and that hour or so that you guys break for to rest yourselves, eat, and whatnot, rub your feet. Sly, you're like leaning up against like your pony, maybe even at times. I don't know. Are you riding your pony through the forest? Or are you walking along with the others?
Oh, he'd probably be riding it as much as he can.
Yeah.
He's not real big or heavy, so he doesn't really tire the pony out too much, or one of the horses even. So anytime that he gets a chance, he's up there and he's laying down.
Yeah. Okay. That happens at lunch, actually. But what you guys would see is that in the morning, as you guys are kind of wending your way through this forested path, you just see Sly kind of nodding, and every once in a while you'd hear a snore, but it's never long enough. And then he would shift in the saddle and he would snap back awake, and he'd probably be something like, "I'm awake, I'm good, I'm good." And then, so he's like that the whole way. And as you break for lunch, you're half asleep. You reach into your bag to grab out some of your rations, and you pull out, and you're just about to bite, and all of a sudden you see this snake right in your face, and you're just like, oh, and you kind of stumble back. You spill your bag out onto the forested floor, and you chuck the snake, and you see it kind of hit the ground, and you see it kind of curl its way up out of sight, up Sui's leg. And then it comes up out of her sleeve onto her, around her hand. And I'll leave Sui to say anything if if anything to that.
Sui's watching Sly when this happens, and as a snake like curls around her arm, she looks at you, Sly, and she says, "He was trying to hand you your sandwich."
Yeah. I got it. Fuck off. And goes to like reach in for some food.
Sui looks to Loralynn, and she gives like a coy smile, like I did that smile.
Laura looks back at Sui. Sui, really?
Sui plays along with it. Now, keep in mind, in reality, she's faking all of this. She's just a very good actress, so none of this is real. So after that, she just goes back to eating her own food and whatnot.
Laura rolls her eyes and eats for lunch.
It's real. It's real creepy. She does that. I was actually thinking like, oh, well, is she actually making a joke? That's great. But then you have to remind us that it's all an act for her. So again, you're just really beat. And I imagine, Sly, you're spending a lot of time thinking about, oh man, it feels so good. Nice feathered bed, tall tankard of ale, good warm fire. You're thinking all these things, but sleep is elusive to you.
Every time he closes his eyes, it's the same thing.
Yep. And that's why you find that you're not able to sleep is every time you close your eyes, you have this vision. Even at times, one of the other things, an observant member, both of you guys give me a perception check. If you care, if you even look at Sly as you kind of been traveling through the morning.
Thanks, Marky.
Yeah, ever observant Sui, you would definitely notice this. And Loralynn probably concerned about Sly. You would see that every time he wakes up, he does things like he reaches for his face and like feels his face, like to see that it's still Sly. Or he looks at it. You see him look at his arms and his hands, like he'll do something like this. And the minute he sees that you're doing it, I don't know, Sly, what do? You see Loralynn kind of concerned looking at you one of these times.
Yeah, he would probably do something stupid. So like he would wake up or something and look at his hands and like he's take a close look at his fingers, and he looks like real concerned, and he kind of catches Loralynn looking at him, and he just and you like pick his nose or something stupid, just like to I'm not doing anything. I don't know what's going on.
Perfect. So you finish your midday break and you start going again along this path, and you're about an hour into the afternoon when a movement at the opposite end of a clearing catches your eye. Shrouded in the gloom is a group of men, all on foot. Behind them stand two horses with two men clad in robes astride them. The men look familiar to you. You think, when an unnatural cry breaks the silence. The flapping of leathery wings reverberates in the forest. Pinpoints of red light flicker from the eye sockets of these flying creatures hurling through the darkness toward you. Resembling ebony-skinned pterodactyls, these with long tails and glistening white fangs. They close the distance towards you. From behind them, you hear the clank of the advancing men on armor, and you see their lanterns bobbing in the darkness of the forest. Let's roll some initiative. You like that? Flangs? They're like fangs, but they're longer.
They also fly. They're flying fangs.
Flying flangs.
Right.
Does the first level of exhaustion give disadvantage on initiative too? Or
Nope.
it says ability checks.
No. That's wrong. That's a 10.
Oh, you know something? It's skill checks, right?
Yeah, it says
Skill
it's
skill
disadvantage
checks
on
is later.
ability checks. But no, it's disadvantage on ability checks, and then the third level disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws. So I don't know if that's where initiative would come in or not.
Well, initiative goes off Dex, so
So it would be like a saving throw, or
yeah.
so no disadvantage. That's all I needed. I will take it. Holy shit. Tom.
Perfect. And your Dex, what's your Dex, Sly? Gonna type in the initiative and then we'll go. All right. So you guys will actually have first action as these flying bat bird-ish things. They're larger than bats are flying in at you. So you guys will all have one action before they reach you.
Before we start, can we see if these men are these like undead men? Are these shadow men? Or are these just like dudes?
They look to be you can definitely give me a perception roll.
Nat 20.
No
modifier.
You got a nat 20?
Yes,
yeah. They look like Zhenterim. You see
God
one of the
damn it.
lights of the lantern bob just right, and it hits the emblem hanging from one of these armed men, hanging from a chain, and you see the Zhenterim symbol.
As Sweet Startle felt emotions, she'd roll her eyes right now.
But you can.
Is one of them the captain that escaped from us?
No.
Okay, he said seemingly familiar, so okay.
But you do you do see two robed men, and with that nat 20, Sui, I would say that one of the men looks familiar to one of the robed men that fled when you guys were at the opening of the tomb. So you know that one at least is a wizard. So you guys can all take an action. So the first one to act on the first action would be Sly. Oh, and Loralynn, your sword is very staticky.
Oh, I'm sure now that we've rolled initiative. So we have Sturgis.
Is the sword of danger's already here and you're facing it?
Well, it's further away. It's definitely going off now.
So we have Sturgis from the front, Zhenterim from the back. Yeah.
No, they're all coming at you from the same direction.
Oh, okay.
So it's
behind us or in front of us?
They're further up the trail. They look like they were maybe walking your direction.
Oh, fun. How far out are they?
Probably about 60 feet. You feel that they'll get to you shortly.
All right. So Sly, in his exhaustion, would just before this, we noticed this happening. He dozed off again, and he starts awake, and his eyes just completely dilated, his pupils dilated, and he kind of grabs onto the saddle of his pony, and he's breathing heavy, and he looks up and he sees this coming, and he just grimaces, no, not today. And first thing he's going to do is he's going to unsheath his flute, and he's going to pull it out. And just before he's going to place his hands, and just before he starts, he says, Sui, I don't have time for this. End them. And he's going to start playing a song, and I'm giving her bardic inspiration. which because I took the Valor also goes to attack rolls. So it's 1d6 to add that you can add to any ability or attack roll.
All right, Loralynn, you're next to act.
All right, with that practice sureness, Loralynn grabs her bow, knocks an arrow, and now is there anybody that would be a clear leader in this?
You would probably guess one of the robed men. You can't tell which one.
Okay, so she's going to shoot at one of the robed men. I don't know how you would tell them apart. Red and green. I don't know, something. She's going to shoot at the taller robed man. That's it.
Okay.
And okay, it's an for a total of 28.
Oh yeah. Yep, that'll hit.
Oh, nice. And she's going to do it for 12 points of damage. She got max damage on that.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
let's see, she's gonna send Honey out. And now you said there was a group of men on feet.
Yeah,
On
there's
foot?
a group of men, 6 of them, running towards you.
She's gonna send Honey
drawing
out there.
weapons.
Oh, I know what she's gonna do. Never mind. I'm gonna change my mind on that real quick. Just send Honey to help Sui on her attack and do the help action.
Okay. Excellent. I'll let you narrate when Marquise has his turn how Honey helps Sui. And Sui, it's your turn.
This is slightly awkward because I'm thinking in a completely different direction than they're thinking. She's actually going to hold up her hand for a Honey to stop and not follow her. And she's going to go, ha! And the horse is going to go running straight towards the Zhenterim at full movement speed, full tilt. As it's moving, she closes her eyes, and when she opens them again, the whites of her eyes are the color of a rainbow. The irises are completely gone, and you see a golden slit in the middle of them. There are feathers coming from her actual ears, her neck, her face now, not actually attaching to her, but sprouting from her skin. She's becoming more beautiful, her hair longer, her hair silver, and then her hair the color of rainbow. She's using her Fey presence ability as a warlock. So when she gets there, straight in the face of these Zhenterim guys, everyone within a 10 feet square of her is going to make a wisdom saving throw. Or the.
So I guess Honey will hold back a little.
Yes, exactly.
So you're riding forward. These large like bat-like creatures are flying at you,
Mm-hmm.
and so you get there. What's the save DC? These bat things,
14.
They just fly right past you. Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
They head right towards your companions. You kind of duck and bob on this horse. And it's good that you keep your head down, because even with your head down, you feel branches ripping and pulling at your
I imagine she's becoming more Fey-like. The branches actually move through her like they would through water.
Yes, perfect. I love it. Oh, good. We got a 50% success. So 3 of these men, what do they do when these men fail this save?
They will be extremely frightened of her, so if they're frightened condition, have to move at full speed away from her next turn.
Perfect. You see it. One of them is actually holding a lantern and a sword, and his lantern falls to the ground, and you can see just the utter terror on 3 of these men's face, and they turn to run from you. And that'll bring us back to the top of the initiative. You feel it in the air. This wizard that was struck by this arrow from Loralynn reaches out a finger, as with its other hand, he's clutching at this arrow that has pierced his chest. And there's a gathering of electrical energy. And this lightning bolt lances out at you. Sui, and you see this it just zigzags across the opening, Your horse instinctively rears with fear, its eyes big, its nostrils flaring, ears pinned back. And just as the lightning strikes you, what the others of you would see would be, is the sword still across your back?
Yeah, it is.
It's almost like a lightning rod. A lightning bolt strikes the sword, and Loralynn and Sly, you just see this bright flash of electric light, like much like a lightning strike when it's close by. And Sui and her horse is just lost in this flash. And then as it fades, you see this bolt of energy arcs back, and you see the last thing you see, Sui, is astonishment and fear on the wizard's face as your sword has somehow reflected the lightning bolt back on him. And let me just roll up some damage here.
Sweet makes a note. Since no emotion, this is tactically useful.
The lightning strikes into his chest, and you just hear him. It just throws him back, and he hits the ground. You see smoke rising up from his chest, and he doesn't move.
When that happens, can I use like a free action to like say something?
Yeah, certainly.
Swee's voice echoes, and when I say echoes, it's as if like 4 or 5 Sweestaddles are screaming from her, but also singing at the same time. And she commands to the other men who are still standing there, "Bow before me, servant of the rainbow, servant of the coatl, servant of the feathered serpent." And she nods her head at that guy, and you see feathers like blossoming from his corpse. They're not real; they're just like fey feathers. And she says, "Or die as he died, and be fed to the snakes."
Yeah, perfect. Sly, you're up. So you're astonished. The light fades, and Sweet is unharmed. The horse looks like it's probably wants to be any place but there, but Sweet herself is unharmed.
Okay. So, shenanigans. I'm calling shenanigans right now. So that's pretty much Sly's reaction. Is just he was playing his song, and he opens his eyes for a second, and he just sees. He can hear it first. He hears the lightning kind of crackle, and he opens his eyes like in fear, and he sees Sui's gone, like all the way up there, and she looks, bedazzled, and he sees lightning shoot out at Sui, and he stops, and then the lightning bounces back, and she says that, and Sly kind of like, I don't know, I don't know what to do with that. He looks back at Loralynn, he's just like, what? And no, that's it. I can't do anything after that. Just let her do her thing. And if she has to she still has bardic inspiration. So if you end up having to make a charisma check or something.
So just so you know, Sly, those 3 large, baddish looking things, they're really nasty looking, are closing in on you and Loralynn.
Yeah, that's still a thing. Okay, so that's still for concern. So that's a problem. And Sly would... and they're about 30 feet now. They've passed Sui, or how far would you say they are?
Yeah, you get a sense that they're going to be on top of you shortly. You have time to like get this action off.
So he would Sly would hop off of his pony and kind of like lean up against it, trying to like butt it towards the edge of the path closer to the trees and whatnot. And while he's doing so, keep playing that song as he's looking at these, these bat things and looking back at Loralynn, and cast bardic inspiration on Loralynn.
Perfect. Excellent. And that is a bonus action, I believe, isn't it?
Bardic inspiration?
Yeah, so you if you wanted, you could either hold an action, you could you could.
If you don't shatter these fucking flying things, Sly, I swear to God.
Do you remember the last few times I've done that?
You better get this sonic boom out, my friend.
Let's take a step back. Do we not remember how well this has gone before?
I'm out of range, so it doesn't concern me what happens.
It's a good idea.
Range.
I
Okay.
think a shatter spell, which is nice and loud, would be really a good thing to do here in this forest.
Yeah. I'm gonna go against.
Solid advice, Sui. I think that's a good idea.
No. I'm gonna stick to the bardic inspiration, and if the Sturges get close enough, he will switch to pull out his short sword, and if one of them comes at him, and his pony, like he'll make a swing, but that's it. Like.
Perfect. And Loralynn.
All right. Has the other wizard guy acted at all yet? Has he done anything? You're muted, or something. Yeah, you're muted, Lionel.
I thought I had unmuted, but I must have double clicked. He has not acted yet.
All right.
But if Loralynn is thinking to make a shot at him, it's probably near impossible with Sui
Yeah,
going
she better go
forward
after
with her
those.
horse.
She better go
And
after
the
those
6
flying things anyway. Now, is the bardic inspiration used for an attack roll?
You can.
But only if I need it, right?
Yeah,
Without
you
you.
only have to use it.
Don't tell me the result until after I roll here.
It's 1d6 if you need it.
Okay. Oh, jeez. It's 8. I'm going to use it. All right. Well. The Lionel?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Bardic inspiration for the win.
What did you roll?
I rolled a 3, but when I rolled 5 on the bardic inspiration, and I have +8 to hit.
So what is that total? Math's escaping me right now.
That comes to 16.
16. You just hit one of these flying things as it comes in.
All right. Well, I'm going to hit it for +2 attack for ranged weapons off of that. It was 18, actually. I got to get used to all my stuff again. Of 8 points of damage.
Okay, good. It's a good solid
she's
hit.
cool. Yeah. Her bonus action, which I should have done first, but I didn't. But I'm going to go ahead and do it. So for next turn, it'll be up, is to cast Hunter's Mark on it.
Hunter's Mark, okay.
Honey also gets an attack.
Yeah, so yes, Honey, I'm going to tell Honey, I haven't forgotten that. Yeah. I'm going to tell Honey, actually, to Sui, Honey, guard us. And action, if one of them attacks me or Sui, she's going to attack it.
Sui's
Not
nowhere
Sui,
near
I'm
you.
Sly. I meant Sly. I'm sorry.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Excellent. Sui, you're up.
How have these men responded to my commands?
Oh, yeah. So give me an intimidation roll with advantage.
Ooh, with advantage, you say?
Yeah.
All right, 1 second. Let me check my modifier. Someone is singing in the room beside me. They're about to catch these hands, Lionel. All right, let's see here. That's plus this is going to be a 19.
Yeah. So you see several of these. Well, 3 of them you're pretty certain they're already running.
Yeah.
You know, off. They're almost past this other robed guy. And the other 3, you see them, they're going to fight, but 2 of them are looking over their shoulder, and they see the one that has just been basically killed by his own magic. And they put their hands up and they said, "We don't want nothing with no witch." And they just turn and they are following their companions. running out past this guy. You see this wizard, this last lone robed man saying, "What are you doing, you fools?"
As he's speaking, Sweet Startle, both of her hands are moving through the air, making these different signs. Every time they make one, it leaves an imprint in the air that it was just filling. Each one's a different color until she has one of all 7. And she says to this man, "The venom of my master is meant only for the wills of men." And as she says that, she's casting Crown of Madness on him. So I'll let him make his wisdom saving throw before I describe what happened.
Let's see how it goes. Oh, what's the DC?
14.
Oh, you might make it.
No.
It's gonna be close. Let me just see what his bonus is. And it's wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
No, he does not.
Perfect.
So this crown. Describe what this crown looks like.
His head moves back and he grabs his eyes like, my eyes! And when he pulls his hands back, you see the multicolored feathers sprouting from his eye sockets, Lionel. It's horrific. And he looks up screaming and he says, "Get the snakes out of my eyes!" And he turns, is going to start swinging whatever he has to attack with at the 2 men running past him.
Yeah, so it'll be on. This is all happening at the same time.
Yeah,
so,
it'll be on his turn. He makes the attack.
He doesn't have a weapon, but his weapon is magic. So I will let you know what he unleashes on these poor guys that are going around him. Well played. Probably would have not been as good for you if you wouldn't have done that to him. Awesome, and that leads us with the flying things. So one of these flying beasts swoops in at you, Sly. So you have a readied action, so you can make your attack on this thing before it actually attacks you. That will hit.
All right, great. So so Sly is, again, he's kind of like trying to push his pony into the woods away from these flying beasts, and as he's kind of playing his little tune, it's getting a little faster pace as they get closer, and he's all right, and he drops his flute and he pulls out his sword and just hacks at one of them as it comes up to bite him, and that's going to be for a total of 5.
Yeah, so you drive your sword at this thing, and it kind of veers off just enough as it's swooping in to claw and bite at you. So you catch it, but not quite as deeply as you would have liked.
And also that would trigger Honey's attack too.
Oh, so you want Honey to trigger off the one attacking Sly?
Well, I just figured the first one that attacked him or me.
Okay.
She would
so
trigger on.
How would Honey know that was she going to do? You told her to do that?
Yeah, I told her to guard us, and
yeah,
with the intent that she would attack the first thing that came after us.
So why don't you roll that attack, Loralynn?
Okay. 7. That would be a 13. Probably wasn't going to hit anyway.
Yeah. So it kind of.
Yeah, she
makes this kind of
roars and jumps up at it. Yeah. After all, flying things aren't really her specialty.
So it's going to make 3 attacks against you, Sly. 2 claws and a bite. And the only thing that's going to hit is the bite. That will be 3d4. And I'm going to need you to make a Constitution save.
Oh,
you see as it bites you, you see this ichor that is kind of dripping from its mouth, its beak, but it has teeth. 18, that's going to be enough. So that is 8 points of piercing damage, and whatever saliva, whatever is dripping from this beast's mouth, you're able to pull yourself free of it before it gets into the wound.
So he remembers the last time that they went against these creatures, and he remembers the last time that he got bit and almost died. So
these are not the same things you guys saw in the tomb. These are bigger. and they are much nastier looking. The other things look like bats. As these things get closer to you, you realize these aren't bats. These seem to be some sort of, it's like they took a bat or took something that was like a bird, and they just, it was a scientific experiment gone wrong.
Oh God.
So
fantastic.
So think of something that would be between like a bat and a pterodactyl.
Oh, that's
about what it looks like.
Comforting, yeah.
With a long tail that almost looks like a donkey tail. So, awesome. And so we'll have 3 attacks against you, Loralynn. Same thing. Does a 17 hit you?
Yes. I'm not using my shield, so it will.
So you're able to fend off the claws that this thing tries to rake across you, but as you do so, you open yourself up to its bite, and it bites you for, oh, geez, this is gonna hurt. 13 points of piercing damage as you just kind of stagger back to try to fend this thing off. And another one, and the other one kind of descends upon poor Honey. And what's Honey's AC?
Okay, she's got the barding. It's 15.
Okay, cool. 15. So the 2 claws will hit, but the bite will not. So she's going to take 3 points of slashing damage. And then she kind of swats at it, and it kind of goes up, pulls up a little bit in the air to try to get away from it. And that'll bring us back to you. No. The men.
Do I have
so the men are running past this guy. And as they're running by, you just see that crackle of energy, Sui, and this lightning bolt lances out, ripping through 3 of these men. And you just hear their screams, but they're only ever so brief before they're silenced by their death as their smoking forms drop dead. And the other 3 just drop their weapons, drop their lanterns, drop their anything that they're holding, and just run past this man. And he starts to turn to finish the job. And now, Sly, it is your turn.
Oh, fantastic. So Sly has this bat creature in front of him, and his sword out. He's kind of like trying to assess the situation. He looks over at Loralynn. He sees she's got, she got hit by one, and Honey's got one on her too. He looks back at Sui, and Sui seems to be doing fine. So he looks back and kind of locks eyes with this bat creature again, and he's probably just going to try and put both hands on his sword and just try and hack at it, see if he can't get a good blow. And, he's not going to make it, though, with a 10.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of swooping in at you, Sly, and you're kind of just swinging at it. And when you do hit it, you can't quite get enough purchase to really kind of get past its through its skin. And Loralynn, you're up.
So those flying pterodactyl things are right on us, right?
Yeah.
Of course. So I'm going to have to grab out my rapier and attack with that. Let's see. And the one still has my hunter's mark on it.
Yep. It's
so
the
that's
one that's
the one
right,
I want to
right
attack.
around you.
Make sure I understand correctly what that does. Okay. That will be a total of 26.
It just hits.
26 just hits it?
Totally
sort of like
kidding.
16 just hit it?
I didn't say it was an ancient red dragon, Carol.
You're a twerp. How am I supposed to play? Okay, so let's see.
Don't forget to add your 1d6 for your hunter's mark.
That's what I was trying to remember. I knew there was something else I needed to roll.
Yep.
That'll be a total of 10 points of damage.
Ooh, good. Yeah, this one looks pretty hurt. You'd say it's pretty bloody, Loralynn. You probably think
Okay,
in
so
another
she's
round.
got-
You probably think you can dispatch this thing in another round, but you get a sense that you can see the bestial nature of this thing. This thing isn't going to run. This is a creature that is serving a purpose.
I do that. Kind of grab at her shield, attack it.
To
Kill
attack
it,
the one
honey.
you're fighting?
Yes.
The one you're fighting? Okay. Give me.
I don't know that she gets the hunter's mark or not.
Right.
Probably not.
Oh, I don't know. There was a time when a ranger did something that their companion got the same benefit from it.
Up to you. Whatever you want to do with it.
I'll have to look because we're really kind of making our. Do you know, Marquise?
It's not in this edition where it gets the benefits, so that would be if you want to let that happen. That's fine.
So even in the let me look. After this session, I'll look and I'll see what level that happens for rangers in the earlier edition, and I think I'm going to allow that for Honey.
Okay.
Because she's losing her multi-attack. So I mean, there's only 3 of you. It all works out in the wash.
Okay. Anyway,
this is our game. Anyways,
you were going to say something.
So give me an animal handling roll as you do that.
All right. Animal handling is a total of 19.
Yeah. So you tell Honey to attack this thing, and Honey looks at you, and there's a strange look on her face, something you haven't seen before, and she goes. And she turns and runs off down the path away from you guys, opening herself to an attack of opportunity from the Daggerdale attacking her. And it dips by, but Sly kind of leaps in with his sword, and it drives it off just enough so Honey is not hit. But you see Honey, and she just goes. All right. Sui, you're up.
End of my turn.
Have him
What you would see, let me tell you what you would see, Sui.
Mhm.
So this guy turns to finish these guys off, and you see your feathers starting to drop from his eyes. So Sui, you would know what that means. And he starts to turn towards you, and you see these feathers dropping from his face, revealing his eyes again.
Have him make the wisdom saving throw. It's for something different before I describe this turn.
Oh, cool. We'll do. Describe it.
Perfect. So he pulls the rest of the feathers out of his eyes right as he's turning. He's bleeding from his eyelids because he literally had to pull the feathers out. Teardrops of blood dropping on the ground. And as he looks up, Sui Sato is standing right there in front of him. She has gotten off the horse and is standing literally inches away. She grabs his head and she kisses him. And as she kisses him, all of the rainbow color, all the Fae features turn into liquid, rush through her body, and then rush into his mouth. She lets him go, and he stumbles back, and she whispers to him, "I love you." And he begins to cover his ears, and she says it again, "I love you." And the blood dropping from his eyes is turning rainbow now. And she says to him, "Those creatures, the wings, the flying things, the demons, kill them, won't you?" And she's casting suggestion on him to make him do so.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. He kind of stands upright at that. He looks at you, forgetting the wounds around his eyes. He smiles, and you see him reaching out his finger, and in his mouth is already starting to mumble the arcane words of summoning as we move to the flying things. So 3 still, one of them still attacking you, Sly. Oh, wow. Okay. What's your AC?
15.
Oh, okay. All 3 are going to hit. So
Fantastic.
First. 3.
Just do it.
So that's 8 points of slashing damage as these claws rake across you. It's probably when you turn to help Honey that this thing scratches at your back, and then you feel a bite come in. Just just at your shoulder. So 9 points of piercing damage as this thing bites into your shoulder. You start to pull it free. But give me that con save again.
Jesus Christ. I'm going to die. Oh, God, that's 11.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
So you feel your legs start to weaken as whatever this is on these things' fangs courses into the wound, and you suffer a level of exhaustion. So you were already exhausted, so you are now at the second level of exhaustion.
Okay.
And now, let me see. Let me see if that one chases Honey or it's going to turn on you, Loralynn. No, it's going to turn on you. The one that's attacking you, Loralynn, squawks, and that one attacks you. But as it does so, the other one swoops in at you too. Well, the claws you are able to bat off, but not the bite again. For some reason, that bite gets you every time, Loralynn.
Now the AC's 17 now. Does that make any difference?
No, I rolled a 17 on the bite, so it's definitely going to hit you. Now you made me forget my number. So 5, 7. 7 piercing damage, and you need to make a con save.
Total of 20 on the con save.
Perfect. That is more than enough. And so you'll kind of pull your arm
I'm getting
out.
pretty beat up here.
You pull your arm out in time. And as you're kind of like staggering and trying to get your footing, you see another, out of the corner of your eye, you see this other form swooping in. All right. So that's going to be 2 hits with the claw and a miss with the bite. Roll low damage, 3. 5 points of slashing damage as this thing rakes past you, but you dodge underneath its bite. And that will bring us up to the wizard. You see the wizard finish his incantation, and you see these bright blue darts of light shoot out, and they just smack unerringly into the one that you had been fighting, Loralynn. It squawks and then drops into the ground, dead. And as the man is doing that, Sui, you see him he keeps walking forward, and you already hear his mouth starting to fill with the arcane words that will summon his next weave of magic. And does he get a save at the end of each turn?
No save for this. Unless basically the moment I or one of my 2 friends attack him, it breaks a spell. But if anyone else attacks him, it's fine.
If someone attacks him,
only me or my allies. So if the birds attack him, he's still compelled to fight them.
Okay, perfect, excellent. And that brings us to you, Sly.
So Sly, so he kind of tried to break from this this creature and make his way towards Honey to try and save her. As was she headed towards Sui or away from Sui?
Away. She's going the way you guys had came.
Okay, so so he would have kind of went that way a little bit, and then when this this creature attacked him, he falls to the ground, and he drops his sword, and he's on his hands are down, and he turns back, and he looks at this thing, and he looks it in the eye, and almost like the humanity is gone from him, and he just looks up at it, and he just he's breathing, he's like hurting, his back is bleeding profusely, and he's and then he's going to let out an awful screech that just shoots out from him, and as he's kind of backing away from this thing, and I don't know if that's going to end up being in range of Carol or not, but I would imagine that I went towards Honey a little bit, so I don't know where Loralynn ended up landing when this fight started, but I'll leave that up to you. But so he's back a little ways, but it has a 10-foot radius on it. So I'm gonna cast Shatter on that, and that's a con save for the Sturge, or whatever the fuck it is. My bad.
Yeah. So what's the DC?
So the DC is.
Don't bother. They're
13.
both going to fail. There's no way that they're going to get it. They got a 4 and a 5.
Oh, good.
Loralynn, I need you to make a save,
Okay.
and I need you to make a save for your horse.
And that's a total 14 damage.
Perfect.
Thunder
Yeah.
damage.
You just rip. It just shreds this one that's been attacking you, and blood is just dripping from all manner of wound that has just shown across this thing. And it was 14, you said?
Yeah, 14 damage.
Yeah, and you see it bloodies the one that it was attacking, one of the ones that was attacking Loralynn, the one still alive. You see it just tumble and fall and hit the ground, and then it kind of lifts itself back up and kicks itself back into the air. But you see that it too was pretty shown or shredded by your thunder wave.
Yeah, and it's just this, and he's done it before, but it's kind of that pulsating air pressure just emanating out from him as he's backing up on all 4 of his hands and his feet, and he's just backing away from this thing, just screaming horribly like some strange creature.
Yes, Loralynn, this wave of sound and energy it catches you off guard. You spin and you look to where Sly is as you hear the noise, and it hits you, boom, and blows you back. So yeah, you take 14 damage. Okay. And your horse, remember what happened to the horses that the Zhenterim had? That's what happens to your horse. Its back haunches just shatter. There's this oh my gosh, this screaming of the horse as it dies, and then it goes silent as it's just crumpled off to the side of this path.
I didn't even name it.
There you go. I'm glad you didn't name it. I was going to say, I'm glad you didn't name it when I saw your save, Carol.
So what happens? What happens to me?
I think Sly Horse Slayer is what your one of your titles should be.
Yeah, man.
Horsebane.
Team Slayer is
so
better.
What happened is that this thing comes, this wave of sound screaming hits her, and her horse goes flying out from under her. She goes flying back, and she goes flying off the horse and hits the ground, and she's just almost completely unconscious, just sort of sitting there stunned, and just kind of like shaking her head. And she took a bad hit.
Yeah, perfect. Actually, lovely. Or as DM Death would say, yes, soon the Raven Queen will have more.
You are not DM Death. You don't get to do that.
Anyone that runs a game on Roll with Advantage is DM Death, Carol. That's the lovely thing about it.
You need the voice then.
Yeah, I don't have the voice synthesizer. But I'm pretty good at killing horses. Horses die in this campaign. Don't be a horse. So if they ever make that playable race, do not play it with Kyle and
my race is Warhorse and not for much longer.
No centaurs. None of
that. So one of the things you would notice too, Loralynn, as you kind of do the same thing that this bird creature does, is you kind of like push yourself quickly back up onto your feet. As you look past Sly down the path, you notice that Honey has stopped. And she's just sitting there in the path. She stopped and she's turned and looking at the rest of you and just watching. And so Sly, turn, huh? It is your turn. No, Sly just went. So Loralynn, it is your turn.
Yeah, Sly just tried to kill me and I just barely failed. So yes, I stand up. I think
my kill count on Loralynn is more than my kill count.
Don't listen to her, Kyle. I thought that was a lovely play. It was well.
Shut up, shut up, Lionel.
It was fantastic, Sly. The best ever.
You had to do what you had to do to survive, man.
Come back, honey, and protect us.
No metagaming in this game.
Is there something left next to us that's alive? Is that
you,
one of those
you have that other thing just kind of rising up, and it's shaking it off too. And you also see the one that Sly hit has kind of like backed off from him, and it's turned its head and it sees you, and it's probably thinking that's probably easier prey. And you see that one swooping, getting ready to swoop at you.
And which one's like in the worst shape?
They both look pretty bloody, Carol. Sly really kind of ripped him up with that spell.
All right. So is that one still prone? Would I get advantage on it, or?
Remember, as a bonus action, Loralynn, you can take your hunter's mark from the dead one and move it to one of these others.
I'll put it on. I'll put it on the one that.
I'm going to throw you that carrot because it's been a while since we played, but don't count on that in the future.
Well, it doesn't help me hit it. First, I got to hit the dang thing. So I'm wondering if it still counts as prone, so I get advantage, or will it?
No, it's not prone.
You know.
It is.
Okay.
It's just like you. It was just more for flavor that you guys got knocked to your feet.
No problem. So I jump up and with my rapier, and I'm going to attack that one. Let's see. Is there anything else I need to remember in this whole list of things? Oh yeah. No. Oh man. No, I will attack it. I don't think that's going to do it. It's not going to do it. It's 14. 14 isn't going to hit it, is it?
13 will not hit it. Your sword
14.
kind of, still 14 will kind of
I didn't think so.
glance off of it. And to answer your question, Sui, I would say that's probably a full round action to do that if you want it to do something that will change the course of this combat.
Okay, so how about Honey? Is she close enough to attack it?
Honey is not moving, even though
I called her. She didn't come.
Nope, she didn't come. She's just sitting right where she was, and you just see her head kind of bobbing back and forth, and she's kind of watching you guys, maybe seeing what the outcome's going to be.
All right. Well, I guess I've got my shield up, and I'm.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. This thing slams against your shield, and you hear it raking at it, and its beakish thing is kind of biting at you, and you push it off. Let's see if it opens you up for the other one, though, as that one comes in to help. Okay, so you're able to fend off with your sword its claws, but then its beak clamps right down just above your knee of your right leg, and this is going to hurt because this is the attack that does the most damage. 9 points of piercing damage, and I need a con save.
Well, I'm down. I don't need a con save. I'm taking a nap, guys.
Yeah, so you're going to take one level of exhaustion from the failed con save, and you see this thing just rip at Loralynn, and it tosses her aside, and she kind of tumbles, and she falls where her shield kind of falls across her face, but the sword falls out of her hand. You said it's a rapier, right? Falls out of her hand. She looks like she may be still alive to you, Sly and Sui. As we move to the wizard. The wizard.
Sweet. Before the wizard. I haven't done anything yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So watching this happens, because she knows she can easily kill one of these almost dead, ghoulish-looking flying monsters, but she's trusting Sly and her pet right now to do it. So what she does, as she said, now looking completely normal like Sui again, she just flicks her tongue out really briefly, communicating to her snakes. And she's having the snakes ready in action. All 12 of them are now gathered in the underbrush and the branches around this wizard. The moment the spell ends, because it'll end once the rest of these flying creatures are dead, the moment it ends, I want all 12 snakes to bum rush and assassinate this guy.
All right. Cool.
Right? So that's my full action is assembling
that. Just to make it easy, we're just going to have it one. You just make one attack on this guy.
Gotcha.
If you hit, all snakes will get him pretty much.
Bet.
Right. Cool. I love it. So he's getting ready to cast his spell. He releases this arcane magic, and there's this wave of energy, very similar to the weave of magic that Sly did, but where Sly used more sound, this is more like a tremor that comes up from the ground and spreads out across this thing. So, Loralynn, you are going to automatically fail your first death save as this thing just tumbles you. This shatter spell tumbles you across the ground. And let's see some saves. One saves and one doesn't. Can you give me the damage on shatter real quick, Kyle?
It's 3d8.
3d8? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one, the one that fails, it is half damage if they save?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of them is just kind of blown apart. It's just this gore and viscera gets spattered across the trees. And the other one, you just hear bones snapping. One of its wings breaks and it drops to the ground. And it's just kind of still trying to make its way over to you, Sly. Though it's built for flying, not for moving across the ground. So it's very limited. Well done. And Sly, it's your turn.
So are they both alive, or did either
Nope,
of them die?
one of them was just literally, how you blew apart a horse in the earlier encounter last session. That's what happens to this thing. This viscera of gore just freaking explodes out from this thing as this wave of magic hits. And this robed man is just moving closer and closer. And you see Loralynn get thrown across the ground. You probably even see her kind of laying in a way that's just very unnatural, kind of like in a movie, like when someone falls from a building.
Okay, so as the Sly is still, he's kind of like limping, but he sees this one down on the ground, kind of like crawling towards him, and he keeps his distance a little bit from it, and he kind of like, skirts around its range a little bit, and he's kind of hissing at it as he's doing this. And he gets around towards its side, and then he goes back in front of it, and then he's going to go all the way around towards its back and jump on it, and he's going to grab onto it and just sink his fingers into it, and his hands just start shuddering as this electric current comes up from under his sleeves, and you can see his hands, the lightning dancing around them. So that would be so making a touch attack would be 14.
14. Yep. Is it shocking grasp?
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me the damage.
And then that's a 5 damage.
Just enough. It's exactly what you needed. So this thing just gets shocked. It just kind of goes, and then you see like its eyes go cold, and it just drops down below under your hands.
And once it drops, he starts like clawing at it and like picking at it with his hands still like emanating this electricity, just like, and he kind of like hits it, and he's just like making sure that it's dead until he's like sure that after hitting it so many times it doesn't even flinch, that it's dead. And then he kind of relaxes, and he turns around, still kind of like mounted on this thing almost, and he looks wearily but at the wizard.
I imagine a natural 20 is going to kill the wizard, Lionel.
Yes.
So I imagine he's like, yes.
Just describe it for us.
Well, here's all so Sly, when you're like in like this bestial like nature, when you begin to snap out of it, it's kind of like waking up for you, right? Or no?
It's so I wouldn't even say that he's like out of it at this point. He's still kind of like hunched over, and he's like on top of his kill, kind of, but he's hurt. So
would you say like a scene of like intense, like intense shock would knock you out of it? like a
I mean,
lot.
I don't really know. I haven't explored it that much yet, so we can
Let's
find
see what
out.
happens then, because when Sly looks up at the wizard, all he sees is a massive ball of snakes, an arm bloodied sticking out, and he hears the gurgling of the dying man and the breaking of bones, and Sweetstottle looming over it, the dark of the forest making it so the entire front of her body is just a black shadow over this almighty destructive thing underneath her. This horrific thing that I can't even describe, as the snakes literally fill his orifices, consume, and then crawl out of his body.
Yes, it's like a bad horror movie. And so there's silence in this forest, but you see, you look at Loralynn's broken body. You see you see her destroyed horse. You see blood is just kind of in her hair, across her face, flecked across her lips, and you can see that her chest is rising in ragged breaths. What are you guys going to do? There's only two of you guys up. Honey starts kind of making her way back towards the two of you.
As Sweetstottle looks at Sly.
So Sly sees this ball of snakes just kind of as it dissolves. It was once a standing form, and it kind of just falls to the ground, and then as they dissipate, there's not much.
Oh no, there's no Sly. You're not getting rid of this dead wizard that easily. It's there, and it's gross. It's gruesome. It has literally
great.
like where they've kind of busted out of his mouth, and
he no longer has a lower jaw, so it's like his tongue is just like lolling out.
Like, oh, sweet, great, awesome, thanks, appreciate it.
Laying on his side, where his eyes were, a snake is kind of wending its way through, but they would be looking at you, Sly.
Right. So I'm not hungry anymore. It's okay. So Sly is still breathing really heavily, and you could probably see just barely this where his shirt is torn on his back, and you could see some blood probably starting to come along the sides, and he's going to very slowly make his way over towards where his flute is. Still, he's eyeing now like this horde of snakes and Sui, and he just looks like a terrified creature, animal that's just about to be finished off. And he makes his way over to his flute, and he just grabs it, and he just sits there staring Sui directly in the eyes, waiting for her to do something.
Sui opens her mouth. You hear the voice
No,
of
that is my turn, and I have to roll a death save because he's going to stabilize me.
I was giving you guys an opportunity to stabilize poor Loralynn, so now that's why I said make the roll, Loralynn.
I did make the roll, and I passed.
Okay, so we get 2 and 1. All right, so what are you guys doing? You guys going to stare each other off? You're going to let poor Loralynn die over there?
Sweet opens her mouth, and it's the voice of Silvermane that comes out, and she's lowering her voice, so that way this like bestial Sly will hear it coming from behind him. And in Silvermane's voice, she says, "Heal her, Sly. You're the only one who can do it. Now, Sly, you must."
And Sly, when he hears this voice from behind him, he kind of he was real hunched over before, but his head perks up, and he half turns and he snaps his neck to behind him, and he sees there's nothing there, but it's reminiscent of the dream that he had, and he's just gripping his flute in his hand, but still on the ground. He's breathing, and he snaps his head back at Sui, and along the way his sight catches Loralynn for a second, and as he's looking at Sui, his eyes kind of start darting back and forth between Loralynn and Sui and the half horse that remains.
Give me another death save as Sly finally finds his way over towards you.
All right.
One.
I passed 18.
She's already at 2 fails, Marquise. What do you?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm at 2 fails and two passes now.
You have
oh.
a 55% chance, Carol, of 55%
I have about
chance.
a 0% chance that the guys will quit screwing around and actually stabilize.
We should have been playing on
You
meat
got the
grinder
you got
mode.
the game science dice, Carol. Don't be.
We should have went to meat grinder mode where the DC for death saves is now 15, as in Tomb of Annihilation. Then this would have been more exciting.
Oh yeah,
So Sly, he's looking back and forth between Loralynn and Sui, and he starts like moving slowly over towards her. Still, every now and then he kind of like winces as his back, and he kind of curls his back in. But then he makes his way over to Loralynn, and he sees in front the half horse that remains, and he keeps like looking down panicked between Sui and Loralynn, and he puts his hand on Loralynn, and he looks at Sui, and if Sui doesn't do anything, he kind of breaks, and he
drops, if that would change anything.
He drops his flute, and he puts both of his hands on Loralynn, and it's really subtle, but it's really subtle, but his hands kind of glow a little bit, and there's just a quick jolt of electricity, and he kind of does a what do you call it? God damn it, defibrillator sort of thing to try and like snap Loralynn out of it, and it's just a quick jolt, just enough. But I'll cast that as Cure Wounds, and that's so that's D8. Oh god. Modifier. So that's 4 health, Carol.
Oh, you guys are terrible in the chat.
Yeah, I can't focus, guys.
Yeah, I have to ignore you guys when I'm trying to do an encounter, because you guys are just like out of control.
She kind of coughs.
I'm trying to wonder if you guys were on the same team. I mean, poor Carol's dying there, and Marquise is like, roll the 1, and Kyle's like, this is my moment. This is my moment in the sun. I gotta narrate this.
Listen here, man.
So anyway, Loralynn, you are all of a sudden sparked into consciousness. But what I'm gonna need you to do is I'm gonna need you to roll me,
of course,
a D20.
Oh, lose a leg, please.
I'll shove it down your throat.
If you lose a leg, I'll be so happy.
What the fuck, man?
Roll like a 6.
Come on, have you guys never played with Marquise?
7.
A 7.
Ooh, 7.
Oh, that's good.
I'm not using that table, Marquise.
It is 7. Personal.
So when you come to, you had found yourself drifting away from the world returning to the ancient world of your Fey ancestry. When all of a sudden you got brought back, and you're looking at Sly as he's defibrillating you. But you still have the effects of the that level of exhaustion. That will not go away until you can complete a long rest. But as Sly helps you up to your feet, Marquise, you find that your leg is just shredded. You look at your knee, and you are now your movement has now been decreased by 10. And if you try to dash on an action, you have to make a DC 14 acrobatics roll or fall prone. So that is a lingering injury. The only thing that can heal it is like a greater type of healing magic. So it has to be like level 6 healing magic to heal that injury. So until that time, you will have that. So this is what's going to happen, guys. If you ever are dropped and you're making death saves and you're brought back, you will have a lingering injury, and I will pick a lingering injury based on how you went down. So anyways, you're welcome, Carol. You're welcome. Anyways, but you do feel like you can move, but your leg is just stiff. It's still knitting together. He put some magic into you, but it wasn't enough. You know you're going to have to rest in order to get more of your strength back. You're feeling like a lot of the cuts and scrapes you have will be better in a little bit of time, but that leg injury is going to be it's going to give you a hard time. You're going to be like one of those old people, like those old crotchety humans that you see, Carol. It's going to rain soon.
I don't know about those.
I can feel it in my knee.
I can feel it on my kneecaps.
Yeah. Anyways, what do you guys want to do?
Like you until it took an arrow to the knee, right?
We've killed the horse, and we've got Loralynn a lingering injury. What do you guys want to do now?
Cut some steaks. No.
My to-do list is almost done. The only thing that would have made it better is if Sui wouldn't have not been so on her game at the beginning to do. I never would have suspected that you would have rushed forward like that. Cool. So that totally blew anything these wizards were going to do, and then you got those spells, just took them out of the fight.
God bless Warlock Faye.
Yeah. God bless the sword too, because when that sword bounced back, that lightning bolt that killed the more powerful wizard, boom, cooked him.
I imagine that when you look back up Sly from like waking up Sui, like you look over your shoulder to see what Sui's doing, and she's literally standing right behind you.
Like so Sly after he just does this quick jolt, and it only takes the one try, but just a quick jolt, and Loralynn goes to like sit up, but he's kind of straddled across her, and he just grabs her face, and Loralynn, you can kind of see his eyes you can see them come back to like what they normally are, and he looks at your state, and he looks around, he sees Sui, and he kind of like gets up and backs off, and he tries to like help you to your feet, and as he's doing so, like he goes to like give any sort of pull, he kind of like, winces and reaches for his back.
Let her sit, Sly.
She just kind of pushes him back. Let's just leave me sit here for a minute. And she kind of shakes her head, coughs up some more blood.
You hear a growl behind you, Sly, as Honey comes up behind you and pushes past you and nuzzles Loralynn.
Loralynn kind of leans on Honey.
Yeah.
Sui crouches.
Got us in pretty good shape this time.
And she reaches out and she moves some of your hair behind one of your elven ears, Loralynn. And she looks you dead in your eye, and her face is soft when she says this. Loralynn, it is time for you to return.
To return?
Back to the Shadowdales. Out of these forests.
Our mission will fail.
It will not fail, for I will finish it, and I will take this loose cannon of a halfling with me, but you should return.
I can't do that.
She takes one hand, and gently, not to hurt you, she puts it onto your mangled leg, and she says to you, with this, you are almost useless. I will give you my horse. You will ride back.
Sly, he goes to like stand up, but doesn't quite get there. I don't even think it's safe going back. We still haven't found that giant creature thing that you and he holds his head that you saw before, and we're already so far in here. We're a whole day's travel. Going back is more dangerous than staying together.
What'd you
If we
say?
go back, we all go together.
What did you say, Loralynn?
Yes, the woods are full of enemies. I would not make it back.
I'll escort you both back to the tree line. And then you, Loralynn, will return to Shadowdales by yourself.
Loralynn gets a little stubborn here. Just like, I can still shoot my bow.
You can shoot your bow, but look at your leg. How will you run? How will you jump? How will you climb, Loralynn?
With pain. So I'll be a little slow.
You're already too slow.
You can't do everything. You can't do everything.
At this point, Sly kind of gets up, and kind of drags himself over to Loralynn and, kind of takes hold of her leg too, and his hands, kind of start to glow a little bit, and he goes, I can fix this. I can fix this. And he grabs his flute and he starts playing his healing song is now basically what it is. It's the same song every time. And I'm going to cast Cure Wounds, try and give her some more. So that's 9 HP. And he's like, just let me try. I can fix this.
Loralynn looks to Sly as he says that. She remembers when he said the same thing when he tried to heal Mattias when Mattias died all those weeks and months ago. She looks back to the mangled leg. She sees it's not being repaired. The wounds are fixing, but the inside of the leg, the tendons, the muscle, the bone, it's beyond his ability to heal. Sui stands up, and she looks down to Loralynn. And having been so close to her patron, having been so fooled with the power and the emotions of the Fae, even if it was temporarily, she feels a pang of worry inside of her. And then she's going to go over to her horse. She's going to throw a leg over. She's going to hurl an Eldritch Blast through the trees to clear the branches, Lionel. And she's going to start trotting down the pathway, heading in the direction they were whirring originally.
Back towards Shadowdale?
Back deeper into the forest.
Oh, deeper into the forest?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So how it was left with the group is that Loralynn is going to continue to travel with you?
That's all. Sui didn't leave with any closure, so.
Okay, cool. I was going to have you make an insight roll, Sui, as you were kind of doing this with... Yes. I love that, Sui. You keep us all on our toes. We never know what you're going to do. So, Loralynn, what do? You see Sui turn and just head off, and she just scorches some of this vegetation with her Eldritch magic. Is it your feathers kind of glow, right, just before you do it? Yeah. And you could tell, even for Sui, this is probably the closest to emotion you've seen in quite some time in her.
Knows Sui pretty well. And she sees something there that she's not used to seeing, and she's like, And she just says, Sly, get me a stick. We need a rest though before we go on.
Yeah.
As you're
as
you go ahead, I don't know if you have your little if you have your familiar out or not. But as you go ahead, as you're walking, stalking ahead of everybody else, you look ahead and you can see there's some sort of campsite off in the distance. You see a couple of horses that have been hobbled.
She assumes this is Zhenterim campsite, and I imagine that when she gets there, she realizes it's the same. She would send her familiar back, the very familiar Coatl, and it would lead them there, and they would find Suistata when they got there, already stoking the fire, having hitched her horse already, and preparing the bedroll for Loralynn and all that stuff.
Yeah, you would surmise that this is the campsite of the men that you just defeated. Yep.
Yeah. What exactly did you say about my speed? It's normally 35. What would it be?
Yeah, so it would be reduced to 25.
I'll lose 10.
Yeah, you lose
Okay.
10. And if you try to use the dash action, you have to succeed on a DC 14 acrobatics or fall prone.
Yeah, well, lots of acrobatics. It might work.
Yeah.
I don't
So what
dash
you'd
a lot
want to do
anyway.
is see a more powerful healer than Sly to have that repaired.
Yeah.
So it'll heal, but it'll never heal
Right.
until you can see a more skilled healer with that has magic skills. So you find this camp.
Oh,
it's already set up. You see there's at least 50 days of provisions there. You find several pouches of coin totaling 212 gold pieces. And you find 5 horses hobbled. So there you go, Loralynn. You get your pick of a horse until Sly destroys it with his shatter. And you also find 3 bottled potions of different colors, viscosities, and appearance. One you immediately notice by the smell that it's some form of healing potion.
Sui's going to keep the 3 potions on her.
Okay.
She won't really mention them to the others. She'll have the money assembled into a big pile of bags for when others come through. She'll let Sly sort through the money and count it as she watches. Let it be known, as she watches intently, with all of her snakes watching.
I was gonna say there's a snake comes up over his shoulder.
Yeah, actually, that's definitely what happens because it's perfect. And then she'll have food and water already set up for Loralynn, and really all 3 of them because we have a feast here.
One of the other things, Sui, is it's just you there now as Sly and Honey are helping Loralynn hobble along. I imagine you've gotten your pony. You see 2 bound texts or books, and as you open them, Sui, you see arcane diagrams and rituals in these books. You have found what are most likely the 2 spell books for these wizards.
Ooh, we gotta talk about that, Lionel.
Yeah, definitely.
She definitely keeps those spell books.
Yeah, so you squirrel those away in a pack that Sui carries. Excellent, perfect. So you guys can definitely take a rest there if you'd like. It was just afternoon. You had just taken a rest about a little over an hour ago. But you definitely, I know 2 of you at least feel like you could definitely rest. So what I need you to decide is, it's already in the afternoon. Do you want to just rest for the remainder of the day and through the night and then start off again? Because if you take a long rest, you'll be able to burn hit die for each hour that you rest. So.
Yeah, I would much prefer a long rest.
Agreed.
Sui will go for a long rest as well because she knows they need it.
Yeah. Now you're a warlock,
and then get spells back.
Get your spells back after a short rest.
Yeah, so the moment we start resting, boom, Sui style is ready for another day, and I get my suggestion.
No, you gotta go an hour.
Just remember, Sui, it's like a rotating one of those rotating doors. Everyone gets a turn entering the house of pain.
It's coming from me adventure. Lionel keeps trying to get me, and I just keep squirreling out of it.
I'm gonna start
you truly are a reptile, Marquise.
And now you're making it more
or I
okay,
should say, not you. Sui is definitely. She is really good at sneaking around that.
Lionel came at me with 2 wizards that have an epic spell battle. I was like, no, observe, Lionel.
No. Wow.
Don't worry, I'll start buddying up with Sui, and we'll see how long that lasts.
You cast wisdom save spells on them, and their wisdom sucked.
God bless.
Fight their intellect.
Wisdom was not good. So let's take. Does anyone need a quick little break? I'm just mindful of time.
I need to go soon, so I don't know how much longer we're going.
Oh,
so let's do this. If we have to go soon,
I can take a real quick break.
Yeah, why don't you take a real quick break, Carol? We're almost at a really good, I think, a natural breaking point, one that I think I was going to have us end anyways. So did you guys answer? Sorry, did you guys say you were going to take just rest through the rest of the night? That's what you're going to do?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So what I need everybody to just give me a straight up D20 roll. Kyle, I need you to give me a Constitution save.
I need you to give me another Wisdom save, Lionel, so I can re-up on my snakes.
Okay, cool.
Are they separate or con and the D20?
For some reason, Sui, as you reach out, you don't seem. You have a few snakes that come up and they just kind of curl in and around you, but not like the horde or the nest that you're used to.
It's the fucking Fig getting in the way again. All right.
What did you say, Kyle?
Do you need a con and the D20?
Yeah. So give me the con first, and when Carol comes back, you can all. Oh, you already rolled yours, Marquise, but we'll have the rest of them roll.
Oh, the con, that would be a 9, actually.
Your con was a 9?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I have good news and bad news for you, Kyle, but I'll tell you after the night. So I imagine you guys make camp. There's a pretty good camp. It's actually, the Zhenterim actually did a really nice job. They picked a fairly open camp. It's fairly open to a lot of the sky, so you get a lot more of that natural light. So it's actually a really good place to camp. And what you would find is as the night slowly starts to, I think Carol can hear us anyways, as the night starts to slowly roll in, it gets darker. That's when it's almost like the forest has like multiple personality. Like in the daytime, it's not so bad, but once night rolls in, it almost takes on this whole new feel. So your D20 was a 7. Okay. So you give me a con save too, Loralynn, while you're at it. Right. So you guys set whatever watch it you think is makes sense. Yeah, that's good. That's good enough. You're able to kind of fight off this toxin in your body. And as the night is passing, it's quiet. You hear the wind going through. Yes, spell slots after a long rest. The wind is kind of going through the leaves, Loralynn, as you're in this trance. I mean, you elves, you don't really sleep. You're in this meditative trance, and that's what you're in. But as you're in this trance, you're going through these mental exercises, and all of a sudden, it's almost like this flash, and you're soaring through the sky, moving through the clouds. You feel feathers in the wind, and you realize the feathers are yours. You're circling above this dark canopy of trees, and off in the distance, you can see this old, decrepit tower poking up through the canopy. You swoop into it, and as you do, you see these burning red eyes staring back at you from up from the canopy. And as you dive down in, you see a lit window in this tower. It draws you to it, and as you swoop in, you snap out of your trance. And I need you to roll a D100 for me, please. So to answer the question, you do not get full. I use slow healing in my games, so you do not get your full hit points back after a long rest. How it works is you can expend as many hit die as many hours of rest you get, up to however many you have. You guys have 4 hit die, so Sly and Loralynn, you can expend up to your 4 hit die to get your yeah. So much like Sly, you guys would see as you wake up in the morning, Sly and Loralynn. Sly, you're feeling much better. You've actually recovered 1 level of exhaustion, so you're only at 1 now. Loralynn, when you look at Loralynn, much like Sly the day before, she has these bags under her eyes. Her mood is not quite so light. and as it typically is, and she looks exhausted. Typically, her trances, her meditation is enough to recover, but for whatever reason, it is not. So after a hurried breakfast, maybe to make up time, you guys set again upon the road. And it's sometime in the early morning hours that an interesting sight greets you as you round the curve in the trail. About 30 feet ahead of you, you see a sturdy, sweaty gnome straining furiously as he grapples with a spider about the same size as himself. Every muscle in his gnarled gray-brown body is taut with exertion. As you watch, you realize he is slowly forcing the spider before him into a device that looks something like a man catcher. And it is draped over the spider's abdomen, and most of the creature's legs are off the ground. What do you guys want to do?
Watch.
Yeah, you just hear him grunting,
Oh.
and you see him slowly trying to manipulate this large spider. And you can see just beyond this gnome and spider, there's like this cage that is on wheels, and that's where he seems to be trying to manipulate the spider into.
Well, Loralynn would call out, "Do you need some help?"
The gnome, without looking at you, grunts and goes, "Can see I got this, can't you?" And
Well, I was pretty sure, but I thought I'd check.
yeah, and once you say that, he slips and almost loses grip of this great big man catcher, and the spider kind of starts to scurry as its legs hit the ground, and you hear him yell, "Okay, maybe a little bit of help."
How close are we?
How close are you? About 30 feet away.
Okay, just out of reach, huh? For me now.
Yeah. Well, you could dash.
Yeah, that
Do
would
you want
be very
me? Do you want me to blast it? I can kill it for you.
No, I must take it alive. This is coin sitting here, man. And he almost said man, and then he looks over his shoulder and sees you, and he goes, "My lady." And he's getting back up on his feet, and he's kind of
moves
forcing this spider toward this cage.
Loralynn, yeah, moved her 25 feet anyway, so she's on her way over there.
I have my familiar go, I guess. Like it's like half-assed. Loralynn, Sweet Sauce just like and it just starts floating over there.
Yeah. As that's happening, this spider must have seen the cage that he's forcing it towards. It starts clicking and clacking. And you're almost certain, but you're not quite certain, that you almost hear some clicking and clacking responding off in the forest. But the gnomes, if he hears it, he's not paying it any mind. You hear him say, "There's no escape for you this time, long legs." And he gives it a big shove and a grunt as he forces the thing closer to this cage.
Sweet Startle's gonna hearing that clacking, maybe coming from the woods. She's just going to turn her horse to look at it, like where she thinks it's coming from, and she's just gonna ready an Eldritch Blast to blow the fuck out of whatever spider comes out.
Perfect. Yeah, and as you're doing that, you hear this one last final grunt from the gnome as he forces this spider into this cage, and there's a clang as he shuts the gate on it. And the spider is just kind of rocking in this cage, clicking and clacking. And the gnome turns around, is holding the catcher, wipes his brow. You can see dirt just smeared across his forehead from the sweat. He says, "Well, I'm getting too old for this stuff." And he kind of taps the cage. He goes, "She was a tough one to catch, this one here, but she'll catch me at a fair price. I'm Martin Spider Hunter. Pleased to meet you." And he walks a couple of steps towards you.
Loralynn's still hobbling along. Does she have 2 levels of exhaustion or 1?
2. So you're at 1 right now.
Which means she's half speed of her half. She
She
can go
was
15.
she was half speed. Now she's at disadvantage on skill checks.
No. Half speed is the second level.
Yeah, but you gain
First level is disadvantage on ability checks. Speed halved at level 2. Disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws at level 3.
Yeah, but your full night's rest was able to take care of one of those.
Oh, so I only have 1?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
Yeah. The con roll I had you guys roll was something different.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I understood that right.
Yeah. I'm doing all kinds of nasty stuff to you guys in this session. Don't worry.
That's okay.
It'll all reach fruition later on.
When I die again. So yeah, so she's
Sly
gonna
said, go ahead. Go ahead.
gonna go up and.
So anyways, this gnome walks towards you guys, and yeah, he's just got this spider catcher in one hand, and he's reaching out with his other.
So, Loralynn's ready to reach out hands and be friendly.
Yeah, he says, "An elf. Haven't seen an elf in these parts in quite a while. Hobbit and a human."
Yes, my name is Sui. It's a pleasure to meet you.
He says, Martin, pleasure to meet you. So, if you don't mind me asking, what brings you into the forest? He goes, I gotta be honest with you, you're not the first humans I've seen.
What do you mean we're not the first humans you've seen?
Did I call you a hobbit?
Yeah, you call him a hobbit.
I love it. Love it. See, I can call them hobbits in this game because I'm not Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, we can do what we want.
Anyways, at least I'm not calling you a gnome anymore.
Right, now that you have a gnome in front of you. Yeah.
We have a friend. She's actually the elf here, Loralynn. We came here on a hunting excursion, and her leg has been horribly hurt. We're hoping that maybe you live out here and can help us.
Yeah, you see him kind of level his eyes at the three of you, and he's looking at you. Well, you don't look like a troubled sort. I guess I could take you to my village. It's
I would be willing to pay you if needed.
Well, sure, I'll let you pay me.
Having expected this answer, she just casually throws him a bag of 15 gold coins from this giant treasury we found the other day. And when he catches it, I imagine he looks and he's like, damn, 15 gold coins.
Yeah, he's like, you see this smile come across his face like, maybe it was a good thing that I'm helping these people. And he says, yeah, just follow me. We'll be there by nightfall. And unless you guys have any other questions for him, he just goes to the front of this wagon. And you would think that it would be pulled by something. Nope, it's pulled by him. He grabs these two the poles, and he just starts pulling this wagon slowly through the forest. What you notice, though, too, is that the path itself is a little bit wider here. It seems like it's been maintained in some fashion, not like maybe like man would, but maybe this gnome and his kind are taking care of this part.
Did we brought all the horses with us, right?
I was going to ask, what did you guys end up doing with those 5 horses?
Since we have so much more supplies now, because we had like 50 days there, I just said Stu I would have loaded up all the horses, so we had like a string of horses with us.
Yeah. So you have this string of horses behind you as well. So with that, I guess we'll end the session there with you guys traveling to the gnome Martin. What's his name? Martin's village. You guys have survived your first couple of days in the Spiderhaunt, which is pretty good. You guys did well.
Without a scratch for some of us.
No, you got lucky, Marquise. Don't be all smug, man. That could have gotten south really
Listen,
easy.
man, I take fate into my own hands and I throw my own dice.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, so I just want to thank you guys. Glad we could play again after that little bit of hiatus we had.
Sure.
We're gonna hopefully get these last few sessions to wrap up this campaign arc of Sword of the Dales. Hopefully soon, and over the next few months, hopefully, and we will call it a wrap. But for tonight, thank you, and peace out.